Welcome to the show. And you've been talking with Sarah, I guess, over the past few weeks, and I guess it was talking about educating younger children. Today it's about teenagers. How is it different educating teenagers, and what do we need to be aware of?
Well, it's really much of the same. It's teaching them the saving, spending, sharing aspects that I spoke to Sarah about. But now you get to more of the practical aspects. So you can start talking to them about part-time jobs. You can start talking about preparing for university. You can start talking about credit cards, opening bank accounts, the more practical aspects of money management.
So let's go to that first one you talked about, I guess, preparing for, to head into the workforce or getting a part-time job. Yeah,
so it's getting your teenagers or even or your children that are in their early 20s to get their first-time job, if they haven't got one earlier, is teaching them financial responsibility, teaching them perseverance, looking for work, just giving them that work ethic. Yeah. And then, obviously, money needs to be earned before you can actually start to save, spend and share it with others.
That's right.
So now it's taking it more into that practical aspect of helping them find those first jobs, giving them guidance when it comes to being interviewed for that job, and all the other tools that they need to start earning money themselves.
What are your thoughts, they get a job for the first time? I know when I was growing up, as soon as I got a full-time job and I was at home, Mum made me pay $50 rent or $50 board, which covered everything. Do you agree with that? Yeah,
well it's a good tool to teach them financial responsibility and money management and budgeting. Yeah. You know, some parents that I've spoken to, sure, they do charge them rent, but what they do later on is they put that money aside. Yeah. And if they see the teenagers are actually starting to save their money and the likes, they will use that money to match what they save.
Wow. Which is great. You talked about education. Obviously, people attending universities, it costs a lot of money. How do you sort of educate a child and prepare them for that, for that 3 to 4 years of study and realise how much they're having to spend on that?
Yeah, there are a few mechanisms and means that you need to think of. Ultimately, if you've got children or you're having children and you want them to go to university, if you yourself can start saving as early as possible. But if you've missed the boat there or you haven't had the means to be able to save for their education, then the whole part-time job aspect that the child has to help themselves support themselves through university, and also then teaching them how to budget and manage their finances, because a lot of them will obviously leave home maybe because they think they want that independence.
Definitely.
They want to buy that first car. Yeah. They want to have all the things that they need to have. They need to pay for their textbooks and the likes, and allowances and student loans only go so far. So normally you would need to then, if you don't have the financial means, you need to top it up with some form of a job.
Right. You talked about first car, which is something that, people, especially teenagers, it gains them independence. They can drive and do what they want. What do they need to be aware of, though, teenagers and parents, when buying a first car?
Yep. Well, it's big bucks to buy, big bucks to drive, really.
Petrol price, obviously,
yeah, for sure. And I had a statistic, or I have a statistic in my book, but it sort of keeps getting out of date with the petrol prices going out, is that if you buy a 1990 car and you do, say, 10,000 kilometres a year, on average, the on-road costs are about $2,500 plus sort of insurance. And so, those costs need to be factored in, and whether children, one, can afford to buy the car, two, whether they can afford to run the car, and obviously as time goes on, whether, if they want to upgrade to another car, whether they'll be able to do that.
Right. Andrew, that's all we've got time for, and I really wanted to sort of move into credit cards, but maybe the next time you're on, we can talk about credit cards, because there's a lot of things that teenagers, not only teenagers, everybody needs to consider when you purchase a credit card for the first time. So thanks for chatting with us today.
Thanks, Brendan.
Wonderful. Time now, though, to head up to Auckland for One News with Peter Williams. Peter.
Good morning. The lawyer for South Island businessman